Hi, good morning and welcome to this Constructionline Talks webinar. This morning we'll be introducing the Issues tab, which is a recent but hopefully you'll find a very useful addition to help you manage and stay on top of your profile within Constructionline. So this webinar will last probably approximately 30 minutes, depending upon the number of questions that we receive towards the end. It is also being recorded, so you will receive a link to the recording once it's completed. So if you normally find yourselves frantically taking notes, don't worry, you will be able to look back on this and see everything that we've talked about as it goes along. If you have any questions, then there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the page. Just click on that and type in your question. Tom and myself will try and answer as many of those questions as we go through the webinar, depending upon who's talking. And then at the end, we will summarize and run through any questions that have been submitted for the benefit of everybody who is on the call. So there are a large number of people attending this morning. So if we don't get through all of the questions or respond to all of the questions in the webinar, we will copy all of those and answer them in a summary and send that summary out to everybody who's also registered for the webinar. So don't worry if we don't get to respond to your question during this morning session. You will get an answer back over the course of the next couple of days. Okay, so in terms of what we're going to cover this morning, I'm going to give a little bit of a brief overview into the background of developments like the Issues tab. My colleague Tom and a guest speaker that we have this morning will go through the Issues tab itself, the feature, the functionality, and how to use it. Give a demo, so just show you actually how it works in practice if you haven't already gone in there and explored it yourself. And then, as I said, we'll do the summary of any questions and answers that have been posted, and then drop into a very quick but important promotion of future topics on Constructionline Talks and what's coming next. So before we kick off with the Issues tab itself, worthwhile just recapping on how we have arrived at this point, the journey to date, and really to emphasize that customer-driven development and the user experience really are at the heart of what we've been developing and what we're trying to deliver to our customers through the new platform. Some of you have probably contributed along the way through participation in surveys, interviews, or maybe even providing some feedback on prototypes that we've developed. As we continue, we're keen that this collaboration carries forward, and following the webinar, if you do have any suggestions or ideas, then we would encourage you please to use that link in the Constructionline welcome pages to access AHA, which is our ideas portal, and let us know how we can improve your experience. So on that point, I'll hand over to Tom. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mike. So what we're going to do now is go through a bit of background as to what we've done in terms of the Issues tab, the reason for doing so, some of the context behind it, and then we'll go into a demonstration where we can actually see it in action. So the first point to raise is the Issues tab is all about you trying to achieve as much as possible continuous compliance, so remaining in a verified state as much as possible. And there's a few changes we've done to the platform which we'll walk through, as well as more upfront information, as well as more warning about what's going to happen to keep you in that compliant state. Now, one of the bits of engagement that we did when we launched the new platform was to really understand what our customers needed, and there were well, the number of themes that came up, but two that came through very strongly. One was around making sure that you could see things by exception. And by that, what we mean is rather than giving you all the information, you just want to know what you need to be able to action. So taking you directly to the point at which you need to update it or something that's due to expire. There's also the element of making sure that you stay in a compliant state as well. So compliance by its very nature is dynamic. So depending on the sections you need to complete, there may be various things you need to update. So it might be SSIP information that you need to update, it may be insurance information. And based on those expirations, you may find yourself in a non-verified state at any one point in time. One of the things the Issues tab is doing will give you foresight into what's due to expire. So rather than waiting for something to expire, as much as possible, what you can do is go in there and update your information so that you maintain a verified state. We'll look at this in a bit more depth in a second, but one of the features that we've introduced is the ability to submit new things for verification, but not lose your verification status. So for example, if you had an SSIP, for example, and that was had expired, rather that was due to come up for expiration, what you could do is submit a new one and actually keep your verification status throughout. In the old platform, when you went in there and you submit something for new, you either go back into a non-verified state, but provided the previous answer that you've given or the previous certificate that you provided is still in date, then you will maintain a compliance status. So that's what we're trying to do, try and keep you verified as much as possible. And what the Issues tab will do is give you information on what's currently not verified, so you can go straight to that point in the system and rectify it. It also tells you what's due to expire. So maybe something's currently verified. However, if it's due to expire in the next 30 days, you'll be able to go in there and maybe even update it before it expires so that you can maintain your compliance throughout. And the third piece is particularly key as well, which is who it's currently with. So there'll be times when you've completed something and you've submitted it for verification, and it'll be with our client services team to complete. There'll be other times when you're completing something yourself. What the Issues tab will do is give you a very clear view about whether or not it's with us or whether or not it's with yourselves to complete. And that's something the buyer can also view. So the main contractor, when they're looking at your profile, will also understand which side it's with to complete. And that's something that's proven to be huge value in terms of clarity of where you are on that journey to get compliant. So what we're going to just touch on now is why compliance is of importance. So what we've done, so just going to introduce David, who has very kindly agreed to join us on the session. So thank you, David. David, would it be okay just to maybe ask you about your role and the company you work for?
Yeah, okay, so good morning everybody. My name's David Garnsworthy. I'm a PQQ manager, which is quite an unusual, big manager for want of another description, but I do the initial stages for Engie. And my role is, as well as doing PQQs, is to maintain accreditation. One of them is Constructionline, which I think we've done for over 20 years now. So this, before it was Portal, I think we used to send everything by post, to be honest. But yeah, so that's my role.
That's great, thank you. And I know we had a chat so prior to this, but is it worth maybe sort of explaining why compliance is important to you, why it's important to remain to complete and maintain your gold verified status?
Oh, absolutely, because I think Constructionline is deemed as one of the leading verification and compliance platforms that certainly we deal with in Engie, and I'm aware throughout the industries, many industries, that's the case. I think it provides clients with the confidence that they need to know that you can do the job basically, and that you have the right things in place. So I think that's really important. I think the other thing, Tom, is it really helps simplify the SQ stage. I think a lot of people on here can probably relate to that joyous question when it says if you're Constructionline accredited, you don't have to answer 9A, B, C, D, E, and F, and you go, yes, thank you. So it helps simplify the SQ stage as well when customers recognise that and actually take into account that you are Constructionline verified, because you don't have to complete the full questionnaire.
That's great, thank you. And I mean, just for context, David was involved with some of those early conversations before we built the platform as well. And one of the themes that came out was about management by exception. I know that's something that I think you found helpful in terms of, rather than telling you non-compliant and asking you to go find it, the fact the platform can now tell you where that is of use.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, being verified is so important. You know, we make sure we've got the latest updates, the right insurances, trade associate memberships, accreditations, and things like that. So actually being able to clearly identify if we're not verified, or indeed you mentioned another key point, which is due to expire, so we can actually plan in advance for what will expire. As you said earlier, before you used to become non-compliant when you resubmitted. Now you can maintain your compliance, and you can also submit during that period where you're still compliant. So I think that's really important. It's a very simple tool, Tom. I've used it quite a few times. We had a number of things expire 31st of March this year, and it was a very straightforward process. It was very intuitive, easy to use, and it just made it so clear. I didn't have to scroll down all the questions to find what I was missing, and then find out you've submitted and then you've missed one. So it's very straightforward. It clearly identifies what you need to do.
That's great, thank you. And then obviously you've used it, so you know that you've touched on that already, which is great.
Yeah.
And you know, that was the theme that we had as part of our engagement. And you know, it's obviously good news that you know, the now we've released it. That's helping you to identify where the issues are and hopefully resolve them as soon as possible.
Yeah, very much so. Yes, indeed.
That's great. Thank you very much, David. Okay, so what we're going to do now is going to go on to a bit of background. So the first bit is around managed compliance. So this would be something that you'll be familiar with. It is where you would have gone to check your verification status. Now, the way that we show any kind of compliance at the minute is around the presence or not of a red exclamation mark. So based on the level you're on, so if you're silver, for example, or bronze, for example, if you've got a red exclamation mark through that, that is an example of where something needs attention. Now, previously, you would go into manage compliance to view that, and you would have to look at that, scroll down, find the section that's relevant, and go into the question and answer it. Now, this path system is still of use, because if you want to go in there and just check anything on an ad hoc basis, so view the policy information that you've submitted, or have a look at any of your other insurance documentation, that kind of thing that's not due to expire, you can go into here and view it, or you can add new work categories. But what we've now introduced is the issues tab on the top left hand side. And what this will do is, where there's something that needs attention, you will see there's a red exclamation mark. So we can see at the top here, we've got a supplier that's currently silver with updates required. But within the issues tab, we can see exactly what it is that needs attention. And as I said earlier, the main driver for this really is to make sure that we show you where the issues are by exception, and then go directly into those issues to then resolve them. There's a few statuses which we'll walk through now. Now, clearly, you can be in a non-verified state. So this will show when something has expired, for example. You can also be in a verified state where something is due to expire. So, as Dave mentioned earlier, your status hasn't changed. You're still verified, but because in the next 30 days something's due to expire, you know there's an action that's required fairly soon, so giving you a bit of upfront warning on that. And then we've also got verified. Now, because of the way the platform works now, where you can submit things for verification, you may find yourself in positions where you've got a verified section, but actually there's some feedback on that in terms of the next submission you make has been rejected for some reason. And you can still go through that cycle of liaising with our client services team, submitting the verification, whilst maintaining a verified state, provided that the answer you provided previously is still valid or in date in the case of a certificate. So that's quite a big change. The section itself is broken into three parts. The first part is requirements. So that is the various sections you need to complete. So identity information, insurance information, corporate professional standing, those kind of sections. We then got the work categories. So are there any work categories that you've submitted that need some attention? So in some cases, there may be work categories that you've created but you've not yet submitted for verification, or you've added but not yet submitted verification. There may be instances where there's an accreditation that's required as part of that work category. So say, for example, it was boiler installation and you need a gas safe for that. If your gas safe certificate was due to expire, your work category would show once it expires as needing attention. And you've also got the buyer connections. We'll touch on this in a bit more detail, but buyer connections are those main contractors that are linked to your organization. What the buyer connections will do is show you which main contractors are linked to your company, and it will also show you the level that they require you to be at. So for many of you, it may be that you will require to be silver, but if there are any main contractors that link to you that require a gold or platinum accreditation through buyer connections, you will then start to see that. The last bit we're going to touch on before we go into demo, which isn't related to issues but is new and worth mentioning, is around download certificates. So previously, you were only able to download your certificates via a link on the introduction pages or via a website. The ability to download certificates is now visible from within the platform itself. So you may have noticed on the top right-hand side, you've got download certificates, and this will show you, provided that you're verified to the correct level, where you can actually download the certificate for the level that you're verified to. If you're not verified, it won't give you an active link. Okay, so what we're going to do now, just going to go into a demonstration. So this is our test system. What I'm going to bring your attention to first of all is when you go into your managed compliance page, you'll see that there are various links on here. And it's probably the case that you would just select continue and go through, but there's some links in here you may find useful. We've got a link to AHA, which we'll talk about later. So if you want to submit any ideas on the portal, we have any feedback in terms of how things could be improved, AHA is the tool that we use to capture that feedback. We've also got a knowledge base. So if ever you're stuck and you're not sure where something is or how to submit something, or any other feature that you want to look at, we've got a knowledge base link here. This is also available via the website. You can go into here and you can download certificates. We've also got some video guides as well. And lastly, we've also got the live chat as well. So from within the portal, we have got the ability to talk to our client services team. So if you have any questions or queries, you can use this. It'll know who you are. You can then submit your question and then have a conversation with our support team. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to just start with is just go into the managed compliance. So this is where you go to view the levels that you're on. You can go through here and you can see what sections are required, and this is driven by the level that you'll be on. And you'll also see which levels that impact as well. So there might be, for the majority of you, bronze and silver, but if you've got a gold accreditation, you'll see that in order to complete identity, you need to be verified to platinum, gold, and silver. What you can then do is expand that, and then you can see exactly which sections it is that needs attention. I think admittedly, this is a little bit of digging down. You go into view, and then you can submit something or get it into a verified state, but you have to look for it, which is one of the reasons we've introduced the issues tab. We've also got the work categories. So here you can manage your own work categories. And then we've also got the buyer connections. So here, for example, I've seen that I'm linked to one buyer, or two buyers rather, and I can also see my compliance. If I show details, I can see some further information for that. So in order to be compliant for this requirement of the Constructionline FM division, I'm currently not verified, and I'll be able to see by expanding this exactly what I need. Now, this is being rolled out relatively gradually, but what you'll likely see are moving forward, more and more buyer connections. You'll see exactly which main contractors have added you to either a segment of their supply chain or a project they're working on, and that's going to be visible through here. Then going to look at the issues tab. So we saw before, previously you were able to go into there and check your status, but there's a little bit of digging in order to do that. By using the issues tab, you can see exactly which requirements need attention. So company details was one of those that we saw within identity that needed attention. And we can see here clearly that this is actually one that's currently not verified. So there's a few things this will show you. The first of all is the requirement that needs some attention, either because it's due to expire or has expired. The status. So here we can see we've got some sections that are verified here, and we've got some that are non-verified, and we've also got any issues as well. So in the top example here, we can see that company details is not verified, and that's obviously clear through the status that it's a non-verified state, and it's past its expiration, which is why it's not verified. What we can also see is what it's affecting. So I can see that in order to get verified to platinum, gold, and silver, as well as to be compliant to work with my buyers, I need company details to be completed. I can also see the submission. So we can see here we've got 3 requirements that are all not verified, but the top 2 here are in for assessments, and that means that they've been completed and they're with our verifications team to update and to verify. And we can also see the third one here, the insurances, has not been submitted. So that's something that I would need to go into, check, update my latest certification, and update that verification in order to be compliant for silver or any of the other levels for that matter. Down here, we can see environmental. So environmental has been verified, but it's due to expire. So we show the clock icon, and we can see here in the next week, this one's due to expire. And we can also see we've got further ones down here that's, such as inquiry, contact, for example, that's verified, which is also in for assessment. And that sort of that speaks back to what we were talking about earlier, where you can submit new things for verification and keep your verification status, provided the old answer is valid still. So my inquiry contact may have been updated. I can then submit that verification and get that checked, all the while keeping my verified status, because it's not yet expired. So that's what the new system will allow you to do. We've also got the same thing for the work categories, as well as the buyer connections, and that's essentially showing you how many main contractors are linked to you and how many issues you have, and you're able to go into the issues tab and have a look at those, and also view those through the status, as we saw earlier. The last thing I'm going to touch on is download certificates. So as I mentioned on the PowerPoint, previously you were able to download certificates, but you had to go to the introduction page or the app page we saw before, or go to the website to do that. That's now visible within the platform. You can either download all certificates if you want to, or choose the certificate that you need to download. The reason I'm unable to download my certificate for silver is because that one's currently in a non-verified state. Those requirements, those goals that are verified, such as my claim, I can download that certificate, save it as a PDF, and if I need to share it, I can do, or even put it up on the wall. That's now available to download. Once I get verified silver, that link will become active, and I'll be able to go in there and download that certificate. Okay, so that's pretty much everything we've got on the demonstration side. If you've got any questions, I can see some coming through. We'll have a look at those at the end, but please do put those on the Q&A. Okay, I touched on it earlier, but one of the things that's worth bearing in mind is AHA. So you probably saw on that link on the introduction page, you can access our AHA portal. It's very valuable information for us, and it speaks back to what Mike spoke about at the front around continuous engagement with customers and customer-driven development. If we know if you find any issues with the platform, or there's any pain points, or maybe things that you think could be done better, go into the AHA link, submit your feedback, and then what we'll do is we'll then add that to our portal. And one of the strengths of the AHA platform is it starts to aggregate those responses. So what we can start to do is see where there's commonality in terms of any particular pain points or any improvements that you want to make to the platform. Those then become very clear to us, and we can really make sure that we develop the solution really in the direction that the feedback we have from customers is. So that's if you haven't already looked at that, we'd urge you to have a look and submit ideas, and we do review those regularly. So what I'm going to do now is just going to go on to the Q&A. So I'm just going to go through and see what questions we've had submitted, and go from there.
Yeah, hi Tom. I think there's been a number that are still open. I'm just having a quick look through the ones that we've replied to. So there was a question around getting help and support. So there are 3 channels now available for help and support. There is the telephone line, call answer, typically around a minute, just over a minute at the moment. We have email, which has got a 48-hour SLA on it, and live chat. Live chat has actually become a very, very popular channel for support, and I guess everybody's fairly familiar with using live chat in our daily lives with the bank or insurance companies. It's a little bit more informal. It's also can get you answers typically much quicker than through email. So do encourage people to use that route. I had a question about references for work categories. So on Constructionline in the past, work categories required the support of a reference in order for a work category to become verified. We did a big consultation exercise with industry last year, and overwhelmingly they said actually references are not something that they required, so that that particular requirement has been removed, and it makes it much easier and more straightforward. Quick question on insurances. So Tom was obviously taking us through the issues tab, and one of the big benefits of the issues tab is it shows things that are due to expire and allows people to be proactive. One of the things we do realize that it's almost impossible to be proactive in submitting our new insurance documents. So what we've done is create a priority verification channel for any insurance submissions, and we are working on a 1 to 2 working day verification turnaround for any insurance documents. So using that method to try and ensure that if it is insurances that are making your profile unverified, then we'll do our utmost to turn that around as fast as we possibly can.
Yeah, one of the questions we've also had is around how you create buyer connections with the main contractors. So currently it's the main contractors that would create them via either segmenting their supply chain or creating projects, and that would then you would then have visibility of that through buyer connections. Although it is interesting feedback, and actually that same question also came up in another session that we've done. So if that's something that you're interested in, potentially that's the kind of thing that you could raise via AHA. We're also looking to introduce an opportunities module as well, where you'll be able to register your interest in main contractor opportunities as well. So that might also tie into that.
Okay, there's another one regarding an SLA for the team verifying documentation, and does that SLA depend on whether you're a gold, silver or bronze? So no, the verification time for response time is exactly the same, whichever membership level you have. The membership levels really just determine the amount of information that you're providing to us. We did have a very big spike in submissions through probably the end of January and February, which took our SLA outside of our normal areas. So I think we were just over the 10 days. We've increased the team by about 40% since the beginning of January. We now have 50 people supporting verification, and as of the beginning of this month, we are now within 4 or 5 days typically for all submissions. That's where we want to be, and I know the team are really working hard to try and keep it that way.
Yeah, there's also
go on, Tom.
Sorry, a question here about SSIP acclaim and DTS. So obviously there'll be 2 icons that you'll see on your profile. The SSIP acclaim is the one, obviously SSIP available through ourselves. SSIP DTS would be any other party, such as Chaz, for example, providing that. So we obviously can accept both, which is why we have both icons in the UI.
And yeah, just on that, so one important point to make is that not having completed the claim will not affect your profile. So as long as you do have a valid SSIP from a third party, then you can submit that. It will exempt you from having to answer the health and safety questions, and it will ensure that you are verified to gold or silver. The acclaim accreditation that Tom mentioned is part of your annual membership. So, and it will be available to be completed and assessed at any time during the 12 months of your accreditation. So if your existing SSIP is going to expire, then you can choose to take advantage of the acclaim if you so wish, and complete that and submit it. I think we're coming to the top of the half hour, and I can see there are still quite a number of open questions. So I think, Tom, what we'll do is we will collect all those questions up. We will put them together into a document, and we'll send them back to this group and anybody else that registered for the webinar. So you will get an answer to the questions that you've posed. Really appreciate your attendance. So Tom, I think we've just got the little promotion. So the next Constructionline Talks is going to be on something that we're calling the document library. Upload and management of documents has been one of the areas that's received the most feedback through the AHA Ideas portal. We know that it can sometimes be particularly difficult if you've uploaded documents previously. You've just got a big list of documents to select from when it comes to uploading another document. So we're changing the way that works, and on the next Constructionline Talks, we'll be introducing that to you. I think that's pretty much everything we have for this morning. Big thanks to David for joining us, and thank you everybody for your time this morning.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you.